The day of the SATs, I was waiting for the bus when I saw a girl having a heart attack. I tried to help. After the exam, the internet blew up. She posted a tearful video, claiming I'd groped her while giving her first aid. She said, "No girl would use her own reputation to falsely accuse someone." That one sentence crucified me. I choked down the humiliation and still managed to score a 1550, just waiting for a major news outlet to interview me and clear my name. Instead, the news I got was that my parents had been killed, hit by a truck driven by the parents of some burnout student. When I woke up, I was back on my way to the bus stop. This time I took a nice slow walk. Hey, look at this rock, it's so big and round, and wow, this tree is so green, and the flowers smell amazing. I was reborn. I was back on my way to take the SATs. In my past life, the testing center was far away, so I'd left 2.5 hours early to take the bus. While I was waiting, the girl next to me had a sudden heart attack. My mom's a nurse, and she taught me CPR, so I immediately started chest compressions. I waited for the ambulance to arrive before rushing off to the exam. But when I came out of the testing center, I saw the entire internet calling for my head. The girl's name was Jenna Clark, and she was also taking the test. In the video, she sat on a hospital bed, sobbing, accusing me of taking advantage of her while she was unconscious. It was an old bus stop with no security cameras. It was early, so no one else was there. I had no witnesses. Jenna's line, "No girl would use her own reputation to falsely accuse someone," nailed me to the cross. The online hate came at me like a flood. My mom was a nurse, and my dad ran a small conveyor belt hot pot restaurant. As soon as Jenna's video dropped, our restaurant was vandalized and forced to close. My mom was humiliated at the hospital, where people threw filth on her. I knew that only a top score would get the mainstream media to tell my side of the story. So I pushed down my fear and rage and continued with the exams. When the scores came out, I'd gotten a 1550, good enough for the Ivy League. That same day, Jenna jumped from the roof of the hospital and died. Her parents demanded $200,000 in compensation. They hung banners in our neighborhood, demanding my life for hers. My parents were so harassed they couldn't sleep. One day, while making a delivery, they were chased by some clout-chasing streamer and crashed into a large truck driven by the parents of that burnout student. Both of them were killed. I was mobbed too. I managed to escape, but as I reached my front door, I slipped on some oil on the stairs and fell to my death. My glasses went flying. In the blur, I saw my next-door neighbor, Molly, holding a jug of oil, her eyes filled with hatred and glee. Now I was reborn. I was only 50 yards from the bus stop, just around the corner from this little path. Through the sparse trees, I could vaguely make out Jenna's silhouette, but I didn't even glance in that direction. Instead, I stood on my toes to pick a rose peeking through a fence and tucked it into my buttonhole. Then I took out my earbuds, put on a vocab app, and started reading the words aloud. I gestured with my hands as I spoke. There was a small pebble on the path, and I kicked it along as I walked. I accidentally kicked it too hard it hit a telephone pole, bounced behind me, and rolled into a drainage ditch. I was only 10 steps from the intersection where Jenna would collapse like a drunk. But I turned back, chasing the pebble down into the ditch. A low-lying wild bush snagged my glasses, so I took them off, put them in their case, and tucked them into my bag. The ditch was dry, filled only with dead leaves and stones. I decided to just put my bag down, roll up my sleeves, and pick them all out. I arranged them neatly on the curb from biggest to smallest. They were so round and beautiful. They sparkled like gems in the sun. I took pictures and posted them to my social feed. In my past life, I had already reached the bus stop by now and found Jenna mid-heart attack. It had to be happening right now. I just kept snapping pictures and posting. I couldn't take all these rocks with me, so I picked a heart-shaped one, wiped it carefully with a tissue over and over, held it high up to the sun and recited, "Heart, H-E-A-R-T, heart, H-E-A-R-T, heart, H-E-A-R-T." As I chanted, I started singing, and I sang until tears streamed down my face. I'm so nearsighted I can't tell a man from a woman at 20 yards. To me, trees are just big green blobs. It was only when I got closer that the fragrance told me the trees at the corner were gardenias. Through the iron fence, I could see clusters of white gardenias, their sweet scent filling the air. Inside was a small garden where an old man was watering his flowers. Cats and dogs chased each other around. And under the eaves, a round security camera was pointed right at me. I took off my earbuds and shouted, "Sir, your gardenias smell amazing." The old man was delighted. He picked a flower and handed it to me through the fence. "Are you heading to the SATs?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes, I'm on my way to the testing center." He smiled warmly. "Good luck. I hope you ace it and get into a great school." "Thanks, I appreciate that," I said gratefully. Seeing the rose on my collar, he cut a few more, bigger and prettier, and even picked several gardenias as big as my fist for me. That little delay took another 10 minutes. Finally, a few retired ladies carrying grocery baskets and reusable shopping bags walked by, heading toward the bus stop. I followed behind them, holding a dozen huge gardenias. One woman with a big perm and a floral shirt smelled the flowers and turned to me. "Young man, where did you get those lovely flowers?" I squinted, just then remembering I wasn't wearing my glasses. I dug them out of my bag, put them on and said, "The gentleman back there gave them to me." "You like them, ma'am? Here, let me give you some." I handed her 5 of them. I gave a couple to each of the other ladies, and we all continued toward the stop. I didn't see Jenna. All I saw was that the bushes on the side of the stop were slightly flattened, but the route sign blocked the view, so no one noticed anything was wrong. I sniffed my flowers and casually strolled along at the back of the group. Just as we neared the stop, my bus arrived. I ran after it, shouting, "Driver!" The driver swung the door open for me without coming to a full stop. I leaped aboard, found a window seat in the back left, and put my earbuds back in. The door was still open, but no one else got on. At the bus stop, the ladies were all chattering about the SATs. The door closed and the bus moved on. It wasn't until the bus had pulled away from the station that an old woman with white hair noticed Jenna's phone on the ground, and then saw her. "Ah!" she screamed, collapsing in fright as the other ladies rushed to help her up. Jenna had fallen into the bushes and was covered in dirt, her face a bruised purple. I never once looked back. Truth is, after being reborn, I could have just asked my dad to drive me. I could have taken a different route, called a cab, or even flagged down a random car. People in this city are the kindest. If I'd said I was a student heading to the SATs, anyone would have given me a ride. But why should I change my plans? Why should I run? Does she own this road? I wanted to be just out of her reach, to watch her slide inch by inch into hell, a cold observer on the sidelines. I wanted her to stare in desperation toward the intersection I'd come from, her hope turning to nothing. It would be best if she just died. If not, she would spend the rest of her life thinking, if only I had been a little slower, or taken a different road, he would have come. Remorse is for the wicked, not the good. That's how you twist the knife. The rest of the trip was smooth. I got to the testing center with 20 minutes to spare. This was my second time taking the SATs. Compared to the frantic, near-tardy rush of last time, I was calm and composed. I finished the exam without a hitch, went home, ate dinner, and checked my phone before my afternoon nap. No news about Jenna. When I woke up, both my parents were home. My mom tossed me a damp towel to wipe my face. "A student had a heart attack at the bus stop this morning," she said. "They brought her to our hospital and put her in the ICU. It's not clear if she'll make it." My dad chimed in. "I heard about that too. Such a shame at that age, son, you still have exams. Your mom shouldn't be talking about this stuff, it might scare you." My parents were good people, still feeling sorry for her because she couldn't take her test, oblivious to the fact that in another life, she'd been the cause of our family's destruction. She claimed my first aid was unprofessional, and that I'd taken advantage of her, right? She must be much happier with how things turned out this time. That afternoon, I went for the next part of the exam, but I didn't want to take the bus again. I asked my dad to take me on his scooter. Having lost them once, I now cherished every moment we had together. My dad removed the cargo basket from the back and wiped the seat down again and again, complaining affectionately, "You're taller than me now. There's barely any room for your legs." I was 18 and 6 feet 3 inches. My dad was only 5 feet 7 inches. I'd been taller than him since middle school. Was he just noticing? I squeezed onto the scooter, put on my helmet, and rested my hands on his shoulders. Dad, after the SATs are over, can we go visit Grandma and Grandpa? My dad gently twisted the throttle. I don't know about that. You'll be heading to college soon. I still need to save up money for your tuition and a house. I pressed my forehead against his broad shoulder, my eyes getting a little misty. We can always make more money, but there's only one summer after the SATs. Besides, it's been 3 years since our whole family went back to see them. I miss them. Better to be safe than sorry. We needed to get out of town. For the sake of the SATs, I'd stayed in the city over winter break to study. One of my parents always had to stay behind to take care of me, so they'd always traveled back separately. My dad hesitated. I shook his shoulder. Dad. An 18-year-old boy whining was something he hadn't heard in years. He couldn't take it. All right, sit tight, you little rascal. I sat up straight. My dad grinned from ear to ear. Okay, fine. I just got a new shipment of ingredients today. I'll sell them off tomorrow, and then we'll head home the day after. You can check your scores at their house, make Grandma and Grandpa happy too. As I entered the testing center, I looked back and saw my dad pushing the scooter, watching me with a look of pure love. My eyes welled up again. I made a fist and gave him a "you got this" gesture. Go, Ethan. The exam went perfectly. I was already a top student, a shoo-in for the Ivy League in my teacher's eyes. If it hadn't been for Jenna, I would have had a bright future anyway. When I came out of the exam, my dad was there to pick me up again. Ethan, are you hot? Tired? Hungry? My dad asked, pouring me some water from a thermos. I drank the water and stretched. Dad, right now all I want to do is sleep. After what happened with Jenna in my past life, I hadn't had a single good night's sleep. And after a full day of testing, my eyelids were ready to give up. Right, my dad said quickly. Get your rest. You've got another big day of testing tomorrow. He took me home. My mom was still on the night shift. My dad went to make dinner. I took a quick shower, dried my hair, and went to my room. I checked my phone. The internet was still quiet. It seemed that without my help, Jenna's condition was severe enough that she couldn't stir up any trouble. But I knew all too well how difficult her family was. The real trouble was yet to come. In fact, she and I had been classmates in middle school. But I tested into the advanced track shortly after the first year started, and I had no memory of her at all. She revealed it herself in her video, claiming I'd been obsessed with her back in school. She was like a sewer rat. Her hair was always greasy, like she hadn't washed it in 2 months, and she always had a strange smell. Putting our pictures side by side, the claim that I would molest her was completely unconvincing. If she hadn't died, I absolutely would have had the chance to turn things around. But there were no if-onlys. In my past life, while I was being swarmed by online hate, someone anonymously sent me a photo. It was a picture of a filthy, cluttered room. The walls were covered with my pictures. There were also all sorts of small things I'd lost: a towel from basketball practice, a water bottle, used pens, even old underwear and worn-out sneakers. The text with the picture said, "Jenna's home." So Jenna had been stalking me, even resorting to stealing and digging through my trash. She was a creepy, twisted psycho. And a desperate one. Her showing up at that bus stop on the day of the SATs wasn't a coincidence at all. It was a meticulously planned setup. Jenna's parents favored her brother and planned to marry her off as soon as she finished high school. In my past life, before she died, she called me. She said if I agreed to marry her and give her parents a $100,000 bride price, she would clear my name with the public. I felt like a rat was demanding I kiss it. I was so disgusted I threw up. After that, she jumped off the roof. I had recorded the call, but it was useless. A single phrase, "Speak no ill of the dead," was enough to ensure I could never recover. But I never understood how she knew I'd be taking the bus from that spot. I thought back to the moment I died in my past life, when I vaguely saw my neighbor Molly. Molly was in my grade, but in a different class. Our families had been neighbors for over a decade, but never interacted. Her parents were both teachers at a private middle school, and were extremely strict with her. Her entire day, waking up, eating, doing homework, sleeping, was scheduled down to the minute. If she went over time or failed to complete a task, she was punished. Our rooms were adjacent. Countless times, I heard her parents yelling at her, calling her a pig brain, saying she was dumber than the son of the food stall owner next door. Before my dad opened his restaurant, he sold spicy soup from a stall in front of our complex. He only opened the restaurant after it became a hit. Later, he made some money, bought the storefront, and upgraded to a conveyor belt hot pot place. Even though being a small business owner wasn't as respectable as being a teacher, they were earning a living with their own hands. Who were they to look down on anyone? I was already a good student, but I worked even harder to make my parents proud. I was always first in my grade, becoming the perfect kid that parents in the neighborhood always compared their own children to. When the couple next door yelled at their daughter, they brought me up more and more often. Meanwhile, my parents were open-minded and loving, always gentle and protective of me. It was highly likely that Molly was jealous. The next day, I continued with the SATs. I did even better than in my past life. Harvard or MIT was a sure thing. After leaving the testing center, I told my dad I was going out with friends, but I actually went to an electronics store and bought 3 hidden cameras. I had a clear conscience, and I was a big guy. The two of them together couldn't take me in a fight. But I was worried about their dirty tricks. I had to be prepared. I installed one in our old security door, hidden behind a 3D fortune sticker we put up for Chinese New Year. It was almost impossible to spot. I put another one inside our apartment. The third one I placed at the top of my bedroom window frame. Angled just right, it could see about 2/3 of Molly's room. If her door was open, I could even see into her living room. I had just finished setting it up and connecting it to the monitoring app on my phone when I almost dropped my phone in shock. On the wall facing Molly's bed was a half-body poster of me. A huge X was drawn over it in red ink, with drips that looked like blood. My face was completely mangled by dart holes. I finally confirmed it. In my past life, she was one of the main people who got me killed. She was probably the one who sent me that photo too. I had tried to look up that account later, but it had been deleted. But this time the photo hadn't been sent yet. I created a new account and searched for it. Sure enough, it was Molly's account. It was probably a burner. There weren't many posts, but what was there was horrifying. Videos of her abusing cats and dogs. From the locations, it was clear they were filmed in our neighborhood and the nearby park. The thought of having lived next to a psycho like this for over a decade sent a cold sweat down my back. I quickly took screenshots and screen recordings of everything, then used my burner account to document and share it. In her list of followed accounts, I found a familiar profile picture. After logging into my main account, I saw the same person in my list of followers. The account had never posted anything, but I remembered it. Whenever I posted something, it would view my story dozens of times. I suspected it was Jenna. Just then, I took a picture of the heart-shaped stone I'd found, placing it next to a jasmine flower from our balcony, and posted it. Then I shared a short, sweet story about childhood sweethearts. The day after the SATs ended, my mom took 2 weeks of annual leave, my dad closed the restaurant, and the 3 of us went back to our hometown. Finally, wrapped in the warm hugs of my relatives, I felt a long-lost sense of security. With the pressure of the SATs gone, I let loose completely. I ran wild in the countryside fields with my younger cousins and our dog, but I never stopped keeping an eye on the Jenna situation. Sure enough, on her 6th day in the ICU, she finally woke up. Just like in my past life, she went online and accused everyone who was at the bus stop that day, the 7 old ladies, me, and the bus driver, of leaving her for dead. Me, huh? The bus driver. Huh? The 7 old ladies. Huh? 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 The internet. Huh? But she was genuinely pitiful. Because of the long delay, 20 minutes between her heart attack and when she was found, and another 20 minutes for the ambulance to arrive because the ladies who found her didn't know first aid. The total of 40 minutes had caused irreversible damage to her body. First, she had malignant arrhythmia and chronic myocardial ischemia. She couldn't handle any stress, or she could suffer cardiogenic shock or cardiac arrest at any moment. Second, she had brain damage. Her heart had stopped for about 4 to 6 minutes while she was unconscious, causing irreversible damage to her brain cells. Third, The prolonged lack of oxygen led to severe kidney failure. She would need dialysis for the rest of her life. She was only 18, and this happened while she was on her way to the most important exam of her life. She'd hit rock bottom. But just because her life was tragic, did that mean the rest of us bystanders had to pay for it? Just like last time, everyone who was at the bus stop was doxxed by netizens. Even though I was the last to arrive, I was the first to be targeted. All because I was also a high school student taking the test. Someone posted a picture of me leaving my house at 6:30 a.m. They argued that since I could have walked to the bus stop in 5 minutes but dragged it out until 7:15, I was somehow responsible. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you walking so slowly wasn't your fault, they wrote. For the sake of argument? Another step back and I'd be at the testing center. I had been taking pictures all along the way. My post with the rocks was time-stamped at 6:50 a.m. My dad recognized the old man who gave me the gardenias as a regular customer at our restaurant. He contacted him and got the security footage from his yard. The timestamp was clearly visible, and it even recorded our conversation. At 7 a.m., I was still there with him picking flowers. Even though we were close to the bus stop, it was around a corner, so you couldn't see it. The old man even helped me get security footage from the next few houses, proving I had been on that little path the whole time, right up until the group of ladies appeared and I caught the bus. The bus's security camera also proved that I got on before the bus even reached the platform. I had never set foot on the platform or come into contact with Jenna at all. If I could still be blamed for this, then the gentle morning breeze and fragrant air must have been at fault too. I had plenty of evidence. Even if people tried to stir up trouble, it was useless. In fact, it garnered me a lot of sympathy. After all, I was just a high school student, walking my own path, not bothering anyone, yet I was forced to hide out in the countryside and couldn't even run our family business. Those old ladies were even tougher fighters. As soon as they found her, they called 911 immediately. One of them even recorded a video, which proved that from the moment Jenna was discovered until the ambulance took her away, no one had touched her, completely eliminating any possibility of being scammed. When Jenna's family started making baseless accusations, the ladies hired a lawyer and sued them for extortion and slander. Never underestimate a pissed-off grandma, especially the one with the perm. She was one of the toughest ladies in the city. They picked the right people to mess with. Unlike me, who had been too naive. For the rest of my life, I'd rather be selfish than ever help a stranger who's fallen. No matter how the story blew up online, my family and I didn't respond. The day Jenna woke up, I saw that her account had visited my social media profile over 100 times. So every day, I posted a picture of a jasmine flower. No caption, just decorated with pink stickers that said love you and miss you. She went crazy, checking my profile every 15 minutes. She was still refreshing it at 3 a.m. I honestly hoped she'd die from sleep deprivation. But as they say, only the good die young. Not only did she not die, but she started live streaming online to gain sympathy. She claimed her family was poor and couldn't even afford the ICU bills. As a high school student taking the SATs, she was a trending topic. With the beauty filter turned all the way up, she actually looked somewhat pitiful, and a lot of people donated money to her. Finally, the SAT scores came out. My whole family was gathered around the computer. In my past life, I scored a 1550 even under all that pressure. This time, I didn't know what my score was because when we looked it up, nothing showed up. My grandfather squinted at the screen, thinking the internet in the countryside was bad. What's wrong? There's nothing there. My dad refreshed the page a few times, but still nothing. He started to sweat. I held on to my grandfather, worried he'd get too excited and fall, and whispered, "Grandpa, the top 50 scores in the state aren't displayed numerically." My parents finally understood and started shouting at each other. Ah! They jumped up and down, attracting all our neighbors and relatives. When they saw how excited my parents were, and remembered I had just taken the SATs, they guessed it. Did Ethan get into Harvard or MIT? Everyone in the village has the same last name. Me getting into an Ivy League school would bring honor to the whole family. My grandfather's hands were shaking. I rubbed his back while anxiously telling my dad, "Dad, look at Grandpa." My grandpa waved his hand, turned around and hugged me, tears streaming down his face. My dear grandson, I'm just so happy. He ordered my dad. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and go to town to order meat and vegetables. And call all our relatives. We're having a big celebration. Then he started looking through the almanac to find a good day for the feast. My uncle is a contractor. When he heard my score was so high it couldn't be displayed, he immediately said, "What are you ordering?" "I have a big black pig from last year saved for a special occasion. Let's slaughter it. I've got the liquor too, it's all on me. Uncle, I even have some top-shelf stuff." The whole village sprang into action, spreading the news. That's when my dad's phone rang. I knew from the number it was the admissions office from a top university. I quickly prompted him, "It's from Boston." My dad's hands were trembling. He fumbled with the phone a few times but couldn't answer it. My grandpa, exasperated, snatched the phone away muttering, "Useless." He answered, his voice unnaturally high-pitched. "Hello? Yes, I'm his grandfather. No, I mean Ethan's grandfather. Yes, okay, thank you. My dad pressed his ear to the phone. The two of them practically smothered the phone, and my attempts to turn on the speaker were blocked. My mom and grandma were hugging each other, laughing and crying. After they hung up, my grandpa and dad were both in tears. They hugged me from both sides. "Ethan, it's Harvard. You got into Harvard." That's when I found out I'd scored a 159. I was the top scorer in the state. The TV stations were already calling. Our local TV station came directly to our village. I was interviewed, and countless parents of high school students praised me. I went viral online. The old story of Jenna's false accusations became a hot topic again, trending on social media. I received even more sympathy. In contrast, Jenna was torn to shreds. Her real photos and her terrible grades were dug up. Her live stream chat was filled with insults, calling her an ugly troublemaker. Back in the city, the principals of my middle school and high school were blowing up my dad's phone. My dad couldn't sit still anymore. He had to go back to the city. He had to do business. He had to make money. The celebration feast had to be postponed for a few days. My grandparents had no objections. They were worried that if we weren't there, my acceptance letter would be stolen. In their day, it was common for people's university spots to be stolen by others. Me. I was hoping to stay in the countryside until this whole Jenna mess blew over. Our family was packed into the car. When we got back to the city, our car was met with a welcoming committee at the entrance to our neighborhood. "The top scorer is back." We were completely surrounded. We had to get out of the car. My dad, being a business owner, knew everyone in the neighborhood, and everyone knew him. "Mr. Reed, how did you raise your son? How did he get a 1590? "We didn't do much really. He's always been in the top 3 of his grade." "What does he usually eat? What books does he read?" "He eats my hot pot. Our hot pot has a beef bone broth base. Look how tall he is, that's from drinking beef bone broth," my dad said, pushing me forward. Me at 6 feet 3 inches, "What a fine young man. I always knew you were destined for greatness," one of the ladies said, patting me all over. She wanted to absorb some of my luck, so her own kids would get into good schools next year. After finally breaking free, I wanted to go home, but my dad threw me a set of keys. "You two go open up the shop and clean up. I'm going to get supplies. I want to earn your tuition money in the next few days." He was seriously underestimating the gold value of a top scorer. Before he even got back with the supplies, the restaurant was already packed with neighbors. My mom and I were still mopping the floor and wiping tables. Neighbors rushed to help, and one even suggested my mom change the name, Reed's Hot Pot, to Scholar's Hot Pot. Just as he said it, my classmates showed up. I wanted to hide my face in shame. "Ethan, congratulations. Our class had done really well this year. Everyone had scored above the baseline for top universities, and many had gotten into great schools. After 10 years of hard work, we had finally succeeded." Everyone was praising me and being nice to me. But these were the same people who had thrown rotten vegetables and smelly eggs at me in my past life. People. With the help of our neighbors, our business exploded. We were busy until midnight, selling out of everything before we could close. The business of the entire street was boosted. The flower shop on the corner even sent us a huge bouquet of sunflowers, roses, carnations, and lilies, so big it was hard to hold. I picked out the red carnations for my mom and a bouquet of red roses for my dad to give to her. The sunflowers and lilies I put in a vase in the shop, a little free advertising for the flower shop. The three of us walked home together. My parents held hands affectionately in front, while I walked behind, holding the flowers. I took a selfie with the red roses in the foreground. The background was our front door, which also captured Molly's house next door. Just as I finished posting and was about to go inside, the door opposite us suddenly opened, revealing Molly's parents with forced, friendly smiles. "Mr. Reed, you're back so late." My dad was a businessman with a naturally smiling face. Even though they weren't usually friendly, he couldn't be cold now. "Yeah, business was good today. The neighbors were very supportive," he said with a smile. After a few meaningless pleasantries, we went into our respective homes. I took a quick shower and rushed back to my room. As expected, Jenna was viewing my profile. My account was my real name, and many of my classmates knew it. A lot of them were liking my post and asking if I was in a relationship. I didn't deny any of it. I opened the camera feed from my window and screamed at what I saw. She was at her window, watching me. The camera was pointed directly at her dark, empty eyes. My mom heard my scream and rushed in. "Ethan, what's wrong?" On the screen, Molly was pressing her ear against the wall listening. I shoved my phone under my pillow and pulled a charger out from under me. My charger, it was digging into my leg. My mom muttered, "You're a grown man, be more careful. Let me see if you bruised your butt." She tried to pull down my pants to check. I quickly refused. I'm fine, it just hurt for a second." My mom glared at me. "Still shy with your own mother?" But she didn't insist and left, closing the door behind her. Ever since I was reborn, I had kept my window shut tight. I had wanted to draw the curtains too, but I thought that would be too obvious, and my parents might open them if they saw. Now I jumped down, pulled the curtains shut, put on my headphones, and looked at the monitor again. Molly was still pressed against the wall, her eyes fixed on my window. Because of the angle, I couldn't see her face, only her loose black hair and white dress, looking like the girl from The Ring. But when she realized she couldn't hear anything from my side, she went berserk. She grabbed a dart and lunged at her bed, stabbing my poster repeatedly. I had no doubt that if I were in front of her, she would stab me 100 times. I quickly dug out the grip strengthener I had hidden in my closet and started training while I reviewed the past few days' recordings. I discovered that on the day the SATs ended, Molly's parents had made her retake the entire exam, question by question, until 2 in the morning. The next morning, the couple beat her savagely. Because Molly had choked on the exam. She usually scored around 1450, but her estimated score had dropped by 100 points. She didn't dare guess randomly on the retake, because if her answers didn't match the official ones, the beating would be even worse. But when the real scores came out, she had only gotten a 1290. She was beaten so badly she lay on the floor for a long time before she could get up. They didn't give her any food and took away all the snacks in her room. That night, she stood by my window like a vengeful ghost, watching me all night long. And she did it every night for the next few days. Damn it, no horror movie is as scary as a girl staring at you through a wall and a window with pitch black eyes all night long. But compared to the tragic death of my entire family in my past life, what was this? I suppressed my discomfort, pulled the curtain halfway open, and leaned against the wall. I took a selfie from outside my window, capturing not only my profile but also Molly. With filters, stickers, and special effects, the creepy scene instantly turned into an angsty, atmospheric art photo. This time I added a caption, "Don't be afraid. I'm here," and posted it. As expected, Jenna was online in a second, and I deleted the post, which I had set to visible only to her. I also set the image to view once, so it couldn't be screenshotted or recorded. I left no trace on the platform, but I left a deep scar in a psycho's heart. After deleting the post, I shared the song Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star. Molly's room had a lot of posters of that singer, and I had even heard her playing that song before. Jenna viewed that post and listened to the song over and over from midnight until 4 a.m. I kept this up every day for the next week. Finally, the day before Jenna was discharged from the hospital, someone in our middle school alumni group chat organized a visit to see her. A classmate even invited me to go with them. I immediately left the group and blocked the few remaining middle school classmates I had. The first thing Jenna did when she woke up was to falsely accuse me of leaving her for dead. The news was huge. I couldn't believe they didn't know. What were they, a bunch of saints? I wanted her to know exactly how much she disgusted me. And the more she saw my disgust for her, the sweeter things appeared to be with Molly. Every night, we looked at each other through the wall, listened to the same song, and gazed at the same starry sky. The day Jenna was discharged, my family and I packed our bags and went back to our hometown. We brought all my high school study materials with us. My mom told me that Molly's parents had even asked her about them. They said their Molly didn't do well and wants to retake the year, so they wanted to borrow your notes. I told them you gave them all away. My dad said, "Those two used to look down their noses at your mom and me. You've made us proud this time, but we're not doormats. Why should we lend them anything?" As soon as the news broke that I was the state's top scorer, everyone in the neighborhood came to our house and took my used notes, pens, and notebooks. They even took the mat I used on my desk. They brought tea, cigarettes, alcohol, and all sorts of gifts. They were incredibly polite, and although we didn't accept the gifts, we appreciated the sentiment. So why did they have the nerve to ask for anything? My dad was on cloud nine. He had hidden my most important review materials and brought them back to our hometown for my cousins to use. He hoped to cultivate a few more scholars in the family. As expected, my grandparents and uncles and aunts treated us like royalty, calling me a genius sent from heaven. The day of my celebration feast in my hometown was the same day as the class reunion in the city. I spent the whole day entertaining relatives, only getting a moment to go online. I saw from some of my high school classmates' posts that they did have a party that night. Molly and Jenna were at the same one. Before the feast began, my grandfather took me to our ancestral graves to burn incense and tell our ancestors that our family had produced a top scholar. Amidst the swirling smoke, I kowtowed to my ancestors and made a wish. I wished that Jenna's psycho side would flare up tonight and take Molly with her. I never expected my ancestors to be so effective. Late that night, I was almost asleep when my phone rang, waking me up. It was a classmate. "Ethan, Jenna's dead. Check the group chat quick." I opened my high school group chat. I saw a flood of real-time pictures and videos, and I quickly pieced together what had happened. On the street not far from my house, after the party ended, some classmates were chatting, others were waiting for rides. Molly and Jenna were walking together. No one knew what they said, but they suddenly started arguing. People only heard a few phrases. Apparently, on the day of the SATs, Jenna had been on the phone with Molly when she was waiting for the bus, and something Molly said had triggered her heart attack. The two of them started fighting like mortal enemies. Just then, a gravel truck sped by. Jenna suddenly pushed Molly into the road. But Molly was ruthless too. She grabbed Jenna and held on tight. Both of them were pulled under the wheels of the truck. Jenna's neck was snapped, and she died instantly. Molly's legs were crushed, and she was dragged for some distance. Her body was severely scraped, and the ground was covered in skin and blood. It was so similar to what had happened to my parents in my past life. The classmates at the scene were either crying or vomiting in terror. A passerby called the police, and everyone was picked up by their parents after the cops arrived. I burst out laughing in my bed, laughing until I cried. Molly was in emergency surgery for 2 days before she woke up. I heard that everything below her hips was amputated, and most of the skin on her body had been scraped off. They had to use fish skin for grafts. The truck was found, but it was a junker on the verge of being scrapped. The driver had been driving normally. In short, the compensation wouldn't be much. After our celebration feast, we stayed in our hometown for another 2 days before returning to the city. As we reached the entrance to our neighborhood, we saw a group of people pulling a flatbed cart, marching aggressively toward our building. I recognized the man at the front as Jenna's father. I quickly urged my dad, "Let's go to the shop." We parked the car, put our things in the shop, and then went back to the neighborhood to watch the commotion. That's when we realized that the cart Jenna's family was pulling was carrying her body. In this heat, they only had a few blocks of ice on it. It was already starting to smell. Everyone kept their distance, watching from afar and murmuring that Jenna's family was being unreasonable. It was clearly Jenna who had pushed Molly. But were Jenna's parents ever reasonable? The phrase "speak no ill of the dead" put them on the moral high ground. Just like in my past life, I had saved Jenna, and they still acted this way. Molly's parents locked themselves in and secretly moved out that night. Jenna's family didn't stop. After causing a scene in our neighborhood, they went to the school where Molly's parents worked, holding up banners and wailing. They refused to bury Jenna and cried online every day. Even the cops couldn't do anything about it. Molly's family was doxxed. It came out that Molly's parents had ignored bullying at their school, accepted bribes from parents, and used high-pressure teaching methods that led to student depression. Their reputations were ruined. I added fuel to the fire, subtly guiding netizens to unearth Molly's burner account where she abused animals. It caused a nationwide outrage. Her social media pages were flooded with curses. Extreme animal rights activists sent funeral wreaths to her hospital room and photoshopped her picture into a memorial portrait online. They called her entire family demons who deserved to die. Everything that happened to my family in my past life was now happening to them. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't over. I forced myself to stay alert every day, not daring to let my guard down for a second. I kept a grip strengthener in my hand at all times, ready to use as a weapon if necessary. Judging by Molly's parents' teaching methods, they weren't normal people either. Now their daughter was disabled, they had lost their jobs, their reputations were ruined, and they were broke. They were at the end of their rope. One was a biology teacher, the other a chemistry teacher. Who knew what they might do? What if they decided to go full on Breaking Bad? I was on high alert every day, constantly on guard, sticking to my parents like a child so they were never alone. At first, my parents thought I was just being silly, but after hearing my analysis, they became cautious too. A week later, there was an official announcement about a major mass poisoning incident. The trucking company, out of humanitarian concern, had compensated Jenna's family with $50,000. Jenna's body really couldn't be kept any longer, so her family finally went back to their hometown for the funeral. Ever since they exposed the evil deeds of Molly's parents, Jenna's parents had gotten a taste of internet fame. They not only invited the entire village to the funeral feast, but also invited many clout-chasing streamers, including the burnout student and his parents who had killed my parents in the other life. He had been one of Molly's parents' students and a key figure in the online mob against them. He had even vowed to continue his crusade against the 3Ms until they confessed their crimes. Hundreds of people live-streamed simultaneously, shamelessly chasing views. The scene was absurd and farcical, more like a press conference than a funeral. But as soon as the food was served, everyone was poisoned and died. It was all live-streamed. They said over 1 million people were watching online, witnessing the tragedy unfold through their screens. The killers were Molly's parents. It turned out that the day before, Molly, unable to cope with her disability, had slit her wrists and killed herself while her parents were sleeping. After poisoning everyone, they didn't try to escape. They set a fire on the spot and died with everyone else. Seeing this outcome, I finally let go of all my worries. With my parents' heartfelt advice and the hopes and blessings of my family, I walked toward my bright future. The end.